Good morning. It's Friday, August 29th, 2025. I'm meteorologist Andrew Pritchard with your Canadian Prairie weather story. Big story continues to be fire risk climbing again. I mentioned this kind of last week. My concern here with this dry pattern that's kind of setting in here late August looks like it has some staying power into early September. So while it's not necessarily going to be hot and dry, that's going to help kind of slow things a bit. Will be a bit mild, especially in the west, and that lack of rain is really going to help things kind of head back in the dry direction here, and fire risk, fire danger today in the red extreme levels across southern portions of Alberta and Saskatchewan, and that's going to continue to expand, I think, over the next 7 to 14 days. We do have some scattered showers in the area today. We'll continue to see that off and on the next 48 hours, but another front does kind of sweep through as we head through the weekend. We're going to be looking at a predominantly dry outlook as we head into early September. The last 10 days, I mentioned it's been pretty dry. A lot of dry spots, a lot of areas that saw little to no precipitation over the last 10 days. You can find some wetter corridors in there. Winnipeg, you almost got 2 inches there, a little corridor of thunderstorms that swept through earlier in the week. But a lot of dry areas here, a lot of dry areas that saw, a trace to maybe a couple hundredths, maybe a couple tenths there. Not much over the last 10 days, and that's the story from the Canadian prairies all the way down through the American Corn Belt, and that dry pattern lingers across the Corn Belt as well. So widespread dryness across portions of North America here as we head through the end of August into, the beginning part of September. So as we kind of take a look at the satellite picture here, the infrared satellite picture here, Friday, August 29th, couple of things, standing out to me. This first big area of low pressure that kind of swept through in that big front, they really brought an end to the prolonged summertime heat and humidity that we saw across this region here, the prairies all the way down into the Midwest. Again, you can kind of see the front exiting the area and a big cooler, drier air mass in place. So we've got kind of some monsoon activity across the western U.S., and we've got these little disturbances that are still kind of riding up over the top of that ridge, and one of those is kicking off some showers across southern portions of Alberta, far southwestern portions of Saskatchewan. You can see the next front, though, getting ready to dive out of the north, and this is going to be kind of taking all of this with it, again, as we head through the weekend. We've got these swirls that are stalled out across the Pacific Ocean, our pattern getting blocked up here across the Pacific over toward North America. So that, again, part of the reasoning here why I think this drier pattern has some staying power, regionally. The radar here early Friday morning, again, I mentioned some showers way down here, southern portions of Alberta into southwestern Saskatchewan. This is really the widespread rain that there is across all of Western Canada into the northern plains of the U.S. and the upper Midwest. Just this little weak low pressure system that's got some localized showers associated with it. Again, I mentioned, though, the change last week on the left, present on the right here. This is the fire danger across the region. So we're starting to see that yellow, orange, and red shading expand across Western Canada. And I think we're going to see this trend continuing into really the first half of September. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see some of these hot spots pop back up, get some fires that start erupting again across the prairie provinces, with some of that smoke potentially becoming a problem as we head through September. Not trying to fortune tell here, but just the setup is going to be there. We'll just have to wait to see if any of these fires actually blossom. But we're kind of getting back to a stage where we could see some of that extreme fire behavior from any fires that do develop across the region as we get back into a drier pattern regionally. Temperatures right now, a little warmer in the east and a little bit cooler as you head off toward the west. And that's kind of the inverse of what the pattern's going to look like overall over the next 10 to 14 days. But as this area of low pressure kind of moves west to east across the area, cooler temperatures 10 to 12 degrees across much of Alberta. And then you warm up all the way to around 20 degrees across a big chunk of Saskatchewan and then, much of Manitoba. Now, as we look at the high-resolution NAM model, we'll watch this area of low pressure really kind of weaken and then get kicked out of here by the front that sweeps through Sunday into Monday. If I kind of, slow down with this one and step through the next 84 hours incrementally, this is your Friday, so these showers continue across southern Alberta, southwestern Saskatchewan, everyone else having a fair weather, sunny Friday. A lot of fair weather on Saturday as well. A lot of folks who are going to be quiet. We'll see maybe some scattered showers across the Front Range in western Alberta, a couple of isolated light rain showers across southwestern into southern portions of Saskatchewan. A lot of dry folks, though, and then this area of low pressure lifts off toward the north and to the east as we get into Sunday afternoon and evening. Maybe some scattered, very light showers across the Saskatchewan-Manitoba border, and then the front sweeps through here on Monday. So maybe some light showers in the east on Monday, but kind of flipping back toward another shot of drier air across the prairies. So we'll zoom out, take a longer range look at this with the European model, and you'll see there's not a lot to really talk about as far as organized rainfall goes across Western Canada over the next 15 days. So here's the area of low pressure that decays across the region over the next couple of days. Not much rainfall really to speak of coming out of that, just a kind of slow west to east movement of that area of low pressure with some light showers associated with it. Big front comes sweeping through on Monday. Going to be cooler, cloudier, maybe some light drizzle associated with this, but not going to be a big rainmaker. And then higher pressure with this kind of ridge west, trough east look that is not supportive of precipitation across the prairie that lingers well into next week. So we're all the way to September 4th, September 5th. As we get towards September 8th, 9th, and 10th, we're talking about maybe some isolated, very light showers, but really no big areas of low pressure, no big fronts moving through that are going to stall out and bring repeated rounds of rain. The outlook over the next 15 days is pretty dry. Now, it starts off with a startling look here with that, warmer area of temperatures over the weekend, but that push of cooler air comes sweeping in Monday. Going to be a quick hitting shot of cooler air across the prairie, a little longer lasting across the central U.S., but this pattern really continues to repeat. Warmer in the west, shots of cooler air kind of being displaced as this ridge builds north. The cooler air gets shoved off to the south and kind of spills into the Great Lakes, central and the eastern United States. It's a dry pattern for us across the prairie. And as far as temperatures go across the prairie, it's got some variety to it. It's warmer overall, but you get these fronts that bring, 2 to 3 cooler days mixed in there. So you don't get a real prolonged stretch of excessive record-breaking heat or anything like that associated with this dryness. Now, precipitation through Monday, pretty light. Again, that area of low pressure slowly tracks from southern Alberta into Manitoba through the weekend, but we're talking about scattered, very light showers here. Very few people going to be even getting north of 10 millimeters here. And the European backs that up. This is the same forecast time period. Friday through Monday from the European, the NAM, both of which have just, they got the area of low pressure producing some precipitation. You may see some raindrops falling out there if it's your lucky day with this area of low pressure passing overhead, but not a big rainmaker, not going to shift the narrative or anything like that. And as I add in the next 10 days, that doesn't shift the narrative either. We just kind of just take, the same areas and sprinkle on a little bit more. So over the next 10 days, 8 or 9 of those are going to be dry, and the 1, to 2 that do have some rain, it's going to be, spitting on you, some light showers, some mist, maybe, 10 millimeters out of it at the most. So your 10-day ensemble forecast looks like this. The probability of picking up a half an inch or more over the next 10 days, so through September 7th, you're looking for red shading here, and you don't see a lot of it, especially across the prairies. You got this little pocket of southwestern Saskatchewan and southeastern Alberta where that area of low pressure is kind of reigning right now, but that's it over the next 10 days. That's the big area of low pressure. It's not a big area of low pressure. And as I, expand this, take it out even further the next 15 days. So now we're going out to September 12th, the probability of picking up 1 inch of precipitation. And we're talking about, 10 to 20% or less across the prairies. And you can find some little, patchy corridors across Wisconsin and Minnesota down into Nebraska, maybe the southern plains, where we can pick up some patchy areas of rain. But a lot of North America is dry with a pattern like this. We kind of look at it in shading that makes a little more intuitive sense. A lot of brown shading from the prairies through the Corn Belt here, where it's not a favorable pattern to get moisture into North America. And here's the reason why. We get this kind of high over low block that reinforces itself. You see it right there, the trough spinning beneath the ridge, and this kind of blocks the pattern up as things would prevail from west to east. Things cannot progress from west to east into North America. And so we get kind of locked into a pattern that does something like this. And you can literally see it. Watch the swirl here counterclockwise and the swirl here clockwise, and then watch the stream of moisture trying to make its way from west to east in there. And I'll let it play a couple of times, but this is that high. The high is right here, spinning clockwise. You see it set up right there. High over low, and then the jet stream, it gets blocked. And so we just get these shots of cool, dry air are forced from north to south across the prairie. I'm going to go ahead and just advance it here. So here's your block right here, the high over the low. Jet streams, storm systems would love to progress from west to east, but they can't. So what happens is we just get this weak flow that comes up over the top of the ridge, and then goes from north to south, bringing us, dry continental air out of the north. So it's chilled, dry continental air. You can see that push of dry air right here, surging from north to south over the prairie as we get into the early part of next week. And that is the pattern. It kind of reflects like this. Left is temperatures, right precipitation over the next 15 days. Warmer in the west, cooler in the east. So, Alberta a bit warmer overall compared to the folks over in Manitoba here. But in general, the pattern looks something like this. You get some warmer days with an interruption there as a front sweeps through, and then you warm back up, then the front sweeps through. So Alberta, a little warmer the next few days, 26 tomorrow, 27 for the high on Sunday and Monday. You dip down to 22 on Tuesday and then warm right back up to about, 27 degrees for a few more days. And then late next weekend, you get into September 7th and 8th, you cool right back down. So there's variety within the pattern here, though it leans warmer overall. And while you maybe have a day or two that offers up some rain as a front passes through, it's a quick one-hit shot. It's isolated to scattered showers. It's not a big rain event. Saskatoon, a little warmer, 30 for the high today. Tomorrow, the next day, cooler, 25 down to 19. On Tuesday, Regina, very similar, 30s for the highs the next few days, down to 20 on Tuesday and Wednesday. Then you bounce back up to the mid-upper 20s. And then Winnipeg, you're a bit cooler overall. As these fronts and cooler air masses sag down to the south, they kind of take up more real estate across the Great Lakes. So the closer you are to the Great Lakes, a little further east there, you kind of feel the impacts there of that lingering cooler air mass. So 30 tomorrow, 29 on Sunday, 25 on Monday. Highs down to the low to mid-teens as we get into next week, and then kind of only rebounding up to 18, maybe 20 degrees by the time we get to late week. Maybe 22 as we get into next weekend. We'll see those temperatures, fluctuating a bit here. But that's what I've got for you. Talking a lot about not a lot. It's going to be, again, warmer overall, some shots of cooler air, drier overall, although you'll have incremental chances for some light precipitation. With that all being said, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I'll talk to you again next Friday. It'll be the first week of September. Fall is certainly making itself known, and we'll be here in full force before we know it.